Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
You can be seated. I'm not going to go on at great length today because we've already had fantastic Torah, both from Sonia as well as the naming of a new little one. But I will draw your attention to one line that I really like in this week's parsha. But first, a story that I have. There was this one time I was at home with Reuben, our 2-year-old, almost 3. We're looking out the window, and he said, "Dad, kitty!" And he's pointing out the window, and it's a German Shepherd. It was not decidedly a kitty. I said, "That's a doggy, German Shepherd." He goes, "No, kitty." To which, well, who am I to correct him on what the nature of that animal is? It's fine. We ran into this a different time, actually, leaving the J. If you've ever driven out through that back parking lot through by the pickleball courts and what have you, and there were geese over there. And Isaac from the back seat goes, "Look, Reuben, geese." And Reuben goes, "No, ducky." And he goes, "No, Reuben, it's a goose." And Reuben goes, "No, ducky." Again, who are Isaac or I to tell him the nature of that animal? Unrelated question, seemingly. How do you describe someone who's religious in modern Hebrew, contemporary Hebrew? Dati. That's right. Is that word intrinsically mean religious? What is that word connected to? What's the etymological connection to that word? Yeah, David.
Da'at.
Da'at.
I believe, wouldn't that mean like knowledge?
Knowledge, that's right. Ani yodea, I know something. It's an interesting formulation that we use knowledgeable as a stand-in for religious in contemporary Hebrew. Now for this week's parsha, and you'll see why I am harping at this and why I think it's interesting. I'm on page 167. Vayomer achen yesh Adonai b'makom hazeh v'anochi lo yadati. Jacob woke up from his sleep and said, "Surely God is present in this place, and I did not know." Karen says, "I love that line." I was talking to Cantor for a little bit, and she was telling me her wife, Rabbi Fix, also loves that particular line. God was present in this place, and I did not know. But it's that same knowing word as religiosity in contemporary Hebrew, which I think is an interesting one, again, that we conflate knowledge with a certain kind of religiosity in colloquial modern Hebrew. Where I really appreciate what this verse does in making meaning of that conflation, saying that knowledge has to do with some kind of holiness, was going back to the story of Reuben and the ducky that was actually a goose. The difference between that and the German Shepherd is he listened to Isaac, and he stopped. And he had this look of almost wonderment in his face, and he said, "Goose." To me, that idea of getting to witness holiness in a place and not even being aware of it before, I see an amazing approximation of that in a small child first learning something and coming upon a concept for the first time and it clicking in that way. That, to me, feels like a modern-day contemporary capturing of what it means to discover holiness in a place and not even realize it. And that's the place from which I think, yeah, actually maybe modern Hebrew is fair in conflating those things, actually. That knowledge, who dati, he's religious or whatever, I don't know that it's necessarily knows a whole bunch of Gemara or Talmud or codes or whatever, but rather is able to ascertain that thing which is oftentimes elusive from our own eyes in our own society and journeys and wanderings, able to pick that out of thin air in the same way that, frankly, I was having a hard time picking it out until I saw Reuben say, "goose." That moment at which he had some kind of realization of knowledge in his mind and jumped to a new concept entirely. If that isn't holy, it's hard for me to suggest what actually is. So I will end with the Torah. Achen yesh Adonai b'makom hazeh v'anochi lo yadati. God was in that place, and I just didn't realize it. Shabbat shalom.